and grammar. Well, what are the policy implications of the recommendations that I just gave you? Well, let's look at the practical. And please walk away with this example because it's one of the most important ones I'll give you. I start with the 6 principles in practice and a story brought to us by the Foundation for Child Development in 2009. And the story is called 3 Mothers and an Eggplant. Here we are in the grocery store, and the young child sees something like an eggplant. And she looks at that eggplant and she's all excited and she points to it, and Mother 1 says, "You won't like it," and walks on. Mother 2, when the child says, "What's that?" looks at the eggplant and goes, "Oh, it's an eggplant. It's a vegetable. We've never had it," and moves on. And Mother 3 does what probably all of you do ad nauseum. "That's an eggplant. Wow, isn't the purple color really cool? You know, there are lots of things we can make with an eggplant. Let's take it home and see what we can do with it. Should we weigh it first?" All right, what did we see there when we look at the principles? Mother 3 used a lot more language. She built on what the child was interested in and tried to make it a broader storyline, a stronger context for learning. She was completely interactive and responsive with her child. It became a meaningful context. She used diverse examples, and she used a lot of different grammar with the vocabulary. Mother 1, not so good. Wasn't putting the principles into play. So the question is, can we train parents and mothers to be more like Mother 3? And the current research suggests that we will. There are things that'll work, and there are things that aren't going to work as well. What won't work? What won't work, as I said, is to think of reading as only drilling in phonics and letter word mapping. Reading books with new words in them and never contextualizing them so that they understand what the words mean. Teaching teachers that reading is all about code and it's not about language. Or thinking of literacy as something that doesn't go beyond the school walls and never goes home. A lesson from Massachusetts teaches this really well. Massachusetts is a state that frequently outscored most of the rest of the nation on national tests. They were number 1 on the National Assessment of Educational Progress in 4th and 8th grade reading and math. Massachusetts' 4-year high school graduation rate increased from the past 5 years, such that 83.4% graduated in 2011. So you say to me, well, why can't we make Wisconsin like Massachusetts? It's looking pretty good there. Problem is, when you look at the 3rd grade reading proficiency in Massachusetts, and all I want you to see here is the difference in the purple or fuchsia line and the blue line. Can you see that? The percent of low-income kids who are proficient, and by the way, who later on go on to graduate high school, is much, much lower. The achievement gap remains, and they have been killing themselves trying to reduce that achievement gap. And I think they told me that that achievement gap at this point is so bad that only something like 40 or 50% are reading at 3rd grade level in 3rd grade. And of course that predicts what happens for dropout rates later on. Drill and kill, even if you up the drill and kill in phonics education in 1st grade and in kindergarten does not work. What will work? Broadening teacher education to teach about the power of language and reading and about language development with reading development. 2, ensuring that teachers with strong language skills are working with our younger children. Catherine Snow suggested a wonderful idea about why are we putting the Teach for America kids only in high school and in middle school? Maybe we should move them down into early education. Adopting curricular approaches that are evidence-based and that help children discover meaning and conceptual links between vocabulary and background knowledge. You should take a look at some of the work that Susan Newman has done from the University of Michigan in her World of Words program. Bridging learning from school to home, where the vocabulary words are shared, and I know that you're doing some of that in Wisconsin. And by the way, I love, love, love some of your professional development. It's so good. But we need to go beyond professional development just for teachers and also have it for professionals like pediatricians. And in fact, there's some wonderful examples of these kinds of campaigns going on in the community. Let me break here by just saying one of the things that we're doing in Philadelphia is we have put in some wonderful signs into supermarkets. And by just putting the signs up that say, healthy language helps your child grow, we've increased the language that mothers use to their young children. More about that in just a moment. The challenge is to systematically manipulate the 6 principles and to change the trajectories for young children by starting early. So let me give you just a couple of the curricular changes that we've been working on. One is that we train the parents and caregivers in these 6 principles directly in our California Preschool Curriculum, where I was one of the people charged with the language and reading curriculum. The goal was to build language support so that you could have better reading support. We did it all through the 6 principles, and what you see here is that we would take each principle and then we would weave it into an example so that you had cultural diversity in the way that we help to train the professionals in California. A second is from research that we're currently doing with low-income children using the 6 principles to bolster vocabulary and grammar in the context of book reading and in what we call playful learning. So they might read a book like Knights and Dragons, and then after they read the book, we divide the kids into 3 groups. One group has a free play environment where they're playing with the kinds of figurines that existed in Knights and Dragons. We just went to the local 5 and Dime and bought these figurines. A second group gets directed play, telling them exactly how to play with them. Can you now move the horse near the castle? And the third is a guided play condition where we say, hey, what should we do next? And we encourage the young children to use the words that they heard in Knight and Dragon so that they learn the words like moat and they learn the words like shield. But what happened in the study, a sneak peek at preliminary results, is that in all the cases, they do better. But they actually do much better when we help their play and don't just give it free play, in both guided and directed play. We had one more interesting result I'll share with you because it was just so interesting. One group did better in the directed play, and one group did better in the guided play. When we looked more closely, these are all Head Start classrooms, what we found, oh, sorry about that, guys. What we found is that the children whose mothers, the children whose mothers had low education, not even a high school degree, did better in the directed play condition, while the children whose parents had some college education did better in the guided play condition. Sort of interesting, isn't it? We can talk about that finding later. I wanted to show you the wider community so you could see what we did in the supermarket for all of $35. We made these signs. Talking to your child helps their language grow, and we called it the healthy language. So any of you who are artists, please help us, because we know that our broccoli is really ditzy. Anyone to help us here. And we went into the Fresh Grocer, which is near our school. This was an honors project by an undergrad. And what we did is we put up signs. Question for your child: what's your favorite vegetable? Or, here's a delicious apple. Can you find another kind of apple? So what happened when the signs were down and when they were up? We looked both in low income and we looked in middle income environments. Can you see the blue bar that says down? And the red bar that says up, and you see that little star in the middle? Everybody see it? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. In the low income, what happened is when the signs were up, and this is the red bar up, you see that the parents talked more to their 5 and under children. Now look across to the middle income. Can you see how much talk is going on in the middle income environments in the supermarket? They are mother 3 in the eggplant story. Our low-income parents start out as mother 1, and they become number 3. A 33% increase in their language when the signs were up than when the signs were down. All right, we're also creating an assessment to examine milestones in language growth for English and Spanish speaking children. It's going to be computer assisted. You can see the tablet at the bottom right, and you can see some of our examples in vocabulary and grammar. Notice how I said they have to go together. Also in the products of learning and in the processes of learning. And this is something that we're working on right now and hope to have out in the field in a couple of years. Which one's the doorknob? It's an easy one for young children. These are for 3 to 5-year-olds. But now, look at the process, how you learn, not just what you learn. Can you find the blue FEP? Which one's the blue FEP? Well, you know there can only be one blue FEP, right? Do you all know which one it is? Everybody out there? You seriously can't find the blue FEP? All right. It's the one to the far right. You know it can't be the brown FEP, right? And you know what the other things are, a crayon and a stroller. It turns out that by looking at the way in which young children learn new words, which we're going to do in this assessment, we find out whether it's the process that has a problem or whether it's just a vocabulary that's a problem. All right, let's go to policy implications. 1, reading outcomes are not going to be strong unless a child's language is strong. I hope I've made that case for you. Number 2, start early. A large portion of Wisconsin's children are already in a preschool, which is great. But you're not starting your preschool until 4 years of age, correct? Right? Even if 80% are in there, you're grabbing them at 4. Wisconsin needs to think about what you can do at ages 1, 2, and 3 with parents, even before the children get into those preschools. 3, you already do have a lot of wonderful professional development in Wisconsin, but I'm going to encourage you to make it even stronger and to link research and practice so that people can see that relationship of language to reading. And I am happy to share my PowerPoint so that you can use anything that really was singing to you to help in your professional development. Next, we need high teacher-to-child ratios, because if we don't, then our problem is we're never ever going to get enough language to pass the ear of a young child so that they can up those levels. And we're not going to hear diversity of language in ways that's going to help those children become good and strong language speakers. We need to ensure that it's high quality language. Sitting them in front of a TV will not work. Even just reading a book if the words in the book aren't related back to anything. So we have to read those books that are going to have some meaningful components to young children, and if we can make it more meaningful after they hear the book, better for us. Policy implications continued. Use a curriculum that covers broader domains. We have tended, as the core has come out, certainly during the era of No Child Left Behind, I'm going to call that the Voldemort era, we have focused so razor sharp on reading and math that we forgot there were things like social studies and science that use reading and math and that help young children learn it in a meaningful way. We have to ensure that if we give the rich curriculum to teachers, that in fact the teachers and the parents are using the rich curriculum. We're going to have to find a way to observe fidelity of use. We have to think beyond the classroom and ask how the broader community can be helping our young children succeed, especially our low-income children who have many moms who are using these 6 principles more like Mom 1 than Mom 3. We have to ensure that evidence-based practice in the preschool aligns with the practice in the higher grades. That is, we need to align the speaking and listening component of the core with what's going on in the reading component of the core. And importantly, we have to recognize that what is good for monolingual children is also good for bilingual children, and that being bilingual is a good thing, not a bad